Hello everyone, my name's Michael and welcome to a replica airguns video. We're looking at the Crosman C41 CO2 BB pistol. And first off, I want to thank Crosman Corporation for providing this gun for review. They also provided me with a Pro 77, which I'll be reviewing shortly. Now, if you haven't noticed, this gun looks a lot like a Walther P38. It isn't a licensed replica, but it's definitely styled to look like one. So as you can see, it comes in this nice cardboard box. We're going to open the box up and take a look inside. Alright, it does come in the bubble wrap, but I've taken it out of the bubble wrap already. Now another interesting thing to note is that this is an update to Crosman's Model 338, which was made from 1986 to 1991, and it too was a Walther P38 replica, although it wasn't licensed either. Now this gun is a non-blowback, almost all-metal constructed gun. It uses the 12-gram CO2 cartridges. It shoots 4.5mm steel BBs. It has an 18-shot all-metal dropout magazine. This BB gun has a non-rifled barrel. It's double action only, and it shoots up to a claimed 495 feet per second. Now this gun is made in Taiwan. So we're going to take a look at the left side first. Now pretty much everything that you're looking at on this gun is metal with the exception of the grips. And it's a fairly heavy gun. It's stated to be about 2 pounds, but it actually feels a bit heavier. Now the safety is molded into the slide. The slide does function, so it does move, but it's not blowback and it really doesn't serve any purpose. You'll notice that there's a nice, what looks like an extractor pin molded into the slide, so it's nice detail there. You'll also notice that you have some engravings here, and what I like about it is that they're not like the white lettering you find on some other guns, which is really obvious. So it's a little bit more subtle. It doesn't just jump out from the gun. It looks really nice. You also have the Crosman logo on the handle here. Now the handle does slide back, giving you access to the CO2 and the CO2 screw here. Okay, so let's take a look at the other side. Now on this side you have some of your branding, the C41 here. It's hard to see a little bit, but you actually have a little bit of a serial number here. It's really fine, but there is a serial number here, and there's also the caliber of the BBs listed as well. You'll also notice that there is the actual safety here for the gun, and you can see that you have the red indicating that it's in fire mode, and when it has the white, it's indicating that it's in safety mode. Now the trigger on this gun is all metal, and one thing I want to mention is this safety is very similar to a lot of other safeties I found on similar styled guns, not necessarily Crosman guns, so I'm thinking that this safety is sort of a universal safety used in a lot of BB guns. Again, you have your Crosman logo on the handle. Now on the top of this gun, you have your sights. You've got your front sight here and your back sight. They're non-adjustable. There's no white markings on them. Now they were fairly usable. I found that they were easy to use in good lighting, so as long as you're not shooting against a dark target, you'll be fine. Now the back sight has a lot of room from side to side, so when you're actually shooting it on target, you've got a little bit of play either way, so you'll have to make sure you center it well. Now the actual hammer does not function at all, so even when you move the slide back or anything like that, the hammer is fixed. It's not a moving part. Would have been nice if it was. On the bottom of this gun, again, you have your grip here, which gives you access to your CO2. You also have your magazine release. Now it is a dropout magazine, but there is a little bit of a sort of a spring effect when you let the magazine release go. We'll take a look at the magazine quickly. It's a standard all-metal magazine. When you move the spring back, there's an actual slot for the spring to go in, and then you just gravity feed your BBs, and they drop in. When you're all full, and I was able to get 19 BBs in here, then you just let the spring go and you're ready to load this gun. Now the front of this gun, there's not a lot to show you here, but I do like the fact that it has a recessed large diameter barrel. So what I mean by that is you have the larger opening, and this looks very much like a 9mm style opening, which this gun would actually be a 9mm if it were the real P38. Inside, about an inch down, you won't really be able to see it, I'm sure, but there is the actual 4.5mm barrel, and it's about an inch in. So really this gun looks very realistic from the front. Okay, so now we're going to head outside and we're going to do the chronograph and shooting portion of this test. Okay, so I have my Crosman C41 BB pistol here, and we're going to shoot 8 rounds through the chronograph. Now, the factory claim for this gun is about 495 feet per second. That's fairly high, so we'll see how well we do. I'm using a fresh CO2 cartridge in this pistol as always. So let's get started. 8 rounds, here we go. 400. 409. 411. We're actually increasing. This is interesting. 410. 411. 409. 411. Last shot. 410. That was very interesting. I haven't seen a gun stay so consistent like that, well, very often. That's very unusual. It's almost like this gun, well, it should be shooting a little higher, so I'm wondering if something's going on. Maybe there's some internal oil or something. It might be interesting to revisit this gun down the road once it's been shot a little bit and see how well it does. Now, I was using the provided CO2 cartridge that Crosman gave me in this gun, so I can't blame it on the CO2, it's theirs. And so anyways, let's move on to the shooting portion of this test and see how we do. Alright, so I've got my Crosman C41. We're going to do the shooting portion of this test. I'm going to shoot 8 rounds into this target from 20 feet away from a freestanding position. And I don't need to cock this gun, but you can see the slide works, kind of neat. Alright, so let's head back. Gun is in fire. Heading back to 20 feet here. Okay, alright, so let's see how well this gun does. Okay, let's go check it out. Well, I've seen better. Consistent, I guess. There wasn't really a tight group. It kind of just sort of sprayed them all up here. Fairly centered, just a little bit high. Not really bad, but like I've said, I've seen better groupings from BB guns. Now this could be partially me adapting to this gun. I've never shot this gun before. I'm going to go back and shoot a few more just for fun. Empty the magazine. Maybe I can get it tighter. I think that's it. Maybe one more. That's it. Well, from the looks of things, this is kind of the zone here, right in there. Again, not the best grouping in the world, but definitely a good plinker. This gun seems to be, it feels like it's getting a little more powerful. I'd like to chronograph it again down the road and see if this gun improves. Now, this is fresh out of the box. And I did notice the gun had a fair bit of oil on the magazine, and maybe some internal parts had some oil in there, and that could be slowing things down just a little bit. Anyways, it seemed to shoot pretty good. You got pretty good, you know, in the 400 chronograph readings, not bad. This isn't an overly expensive gun. It's nice that it's all metal. So let's head inside and wrap up the rest of this review. Okay, so we got some pretty interesting results from this gun in the chronograph and shooting portion of the test. Not exactly what I expected from it, but still good. And based on my results, I'm going to have to conclude that this gun needs a little bit of break-in time. And I did notice that there was a lot of oil, especially on the magazine when it was released. And perhaps there's some excess oil inside the magazine, so when you get oil on BBs, especially if it's, say, on one side of the BB and not the other, then it's not going to move through the air the same way, and it's going to pull to the left or the right. And having oil in the gun can also affect feet per second because the BB is going to be a little heavier, and it's going to be a little bit more burdened by the oil. So with that said, you saw the chronograph results. I did go back and I did shoot about midway through my CO2 cartridge, which should have given me a slower feet per second rating, but it actually gave me a faster feet per second rating, and I was getting closer to in the 420s, up to like 425 feet per second, and that was midway through my CO2 cartridge with a gun that had cooled off a little bit from shooting it. So I could see this gun shooting realistically on a warmer day when it's broken in closer to the 450 feet per second range. And again, you saw the shooting results. It wasn't spectacular, but as I shot this gun and it seemed to break in, and perhaps some of the oil that was originally in the gun had gone away by that point, I did notice that it was shooting tighter. Now, one thing that was absolutely amazing with this gun was how many shots I got out of it. And I actually lost count of my magazines. I got somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 9 magazines worth of shots in this gun. And each magazine I was loading 19 shots. And usually when I shoot a gun, what I do is I shoot until I hear that the gun is empty, because the slide doesn't stay back. There's no real way to know that the gun is empty except for by the sound that it makes. And there's a difference in sound when a BB is being shot as to when it's empty. So I hear the empty shot, which is like taking a shot, and then I stop shooting. So realistically, I was shooting 20 shots per magazine, and I put 8 to 9 magazines. So this gun gets well over 150 shots per CO2 cartridge. And these shots are in the 400 plus range, so that's very good. I just quickly wanted to show you this target. Now, I didn't put a lot of magazines into this target, but you can see that the gun stayed in the zone all the way through. So I really didn't shoot outside the original sort of zone, and it stayed kind of right in here in a 2-inch pattern here. Okay, so let's go over some of the pros and the cons for this Crosman C41 BB pistol. Now, it's a fairly low priced all metal gun, and really not a lot of guns are all metal in this price range, so that's a nice plus. Now, it's a very solid feeling gun. It does have a bit of a large handle, so if you have large hands it's going to fit perfectly. Now, if you have smaller hands, be a little bit aware of that. This gun has a nice all metal dropout magazine. Now, it also had good feet per second ratings. Now, even though it didn't get right up to the claimed 495 feet per second, overall it did very well in the feet per second category. Now, this gun was reasonably accurate, and it seemed to get better as I shot it more. Again, this gun got absolutely amazing shots per CO2, so its CO2 efficiency was really better than any other gun I've tested so far. Now again, even though this gun is not licensed by Walther, it very closely resembles a Walther P38, so if you're looking for that older style replica gun, this might be a good one for you. I also like that the CO2 was hidden very nicely and the tab was also hidden nicely. Another thing that I liked about this gun is that even though it was double action, it had a very smooth trigger. So there were a couple things I didn't really like about the gun. There weren't a lot of moving parts, so the safety wasn't functional. Now the slide does move back and forth, but it doesn't really do anything. The hammer was fixed, it's non-functioning, it's non-mechanical. And again, the left side safety is just molded into the slide, and it's non-functioning as well. I also found that the grips were a little bit loose, so you can see they don't really snap. They're kind of loose. Now when you're holding the gun and shooting it, it doesn't really affect it. But if it's just kind of lying around, it's pretty easy to knock it open when you're just looking at it. And lastly, the feet per second didn't really get up to the claimed 495 feet per second. It did fairly well, but still, if you're going to claim 495, I think it would be nice if you're getting up into the 470s at least. Alright, well that pretty much concludes this video. I don't sell this gun in my replica airgun store, but if you come check out my website and read my article related to the Crosman C41, I do have a link to Amazon where you can purchase it from. And don't forget to come down and check out the site in general. I've got a lot of articles and reviews, and I have a growing selection of air guns, blank guns, and accessories in the replica airgun store. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to subscribe. And if you're a big Crosman fan, then stay tuned shortly for my Pro 77 review. Now if you're watching this video in the month of July, I have a contest going on. It's my 100th video contest, so make sure to check that video out and get involved in that as well. Thanks again for watching another Replica Airguns video, and take care.